Assalamu alaikum. As Chair of Interfaith Scotland and as Interfaith Representative for Muslim Council of Scotland, I'm honoured to be supporting World Interfaith Harmony Week 2022 and to share with you our Interfaith Pilgrim video held to celebrate the week. This was one of our first in-person events since the start of the pandemic, where women from many faiths and beliefs enjoyed learning about the rich diversity of traditions that makes up our modern world. Interfaith engagement is a powerful tool for harmony and understanding, and we hope you enjoy journeying with us to places of worship in Scotland. Thank you.
Scotland, as you know, we're a charity that brings people together from different faith and belief communities throughout the country. There is a theme, as you will probably have seen, for the day, which is stories of hope from women of faith. So when we started planning this event, we thought it'd be lovely to do it in partnership with two local women's interfaith groups. So Alison from Women of Faith and Community, which is a Glasgow interfaith group, and Neela from the Edinburgh Women's Interfaith Group worked with myself and with Aparna to put on this event. And they said, wouldn't it be great to have a pilgrimage with a little bit of a difference? So it's not just to come and see places of worship and holy books, we'll see the beautiful places of worship, but in each place of worship we will be meeting a woman from that faith who's going to tell her personal story and share it with us. So it's really how that person's faith inspires them as well. So it's also World Interfaith Harmony Week this week, and some of you will know that that happens every year in the first week of February. This was set up by King Abdullah II of Jordan, who approached the UN in 2010 and said, wouldn't it be great to have a week to showcase all the wonderful interfaith events taking place throughout the whole of the world. So our event is on the map on their website, so people all over the world will know that this is happening today, and there'll be other events happening all over the world as well on this special occasion. So without further ado, I will pass over to our chaplain of the University of Glasgow, Reverend Carolyn Kelley. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis, and thank you, excuse me, thank you, Interfaith Scotland, for this wonderful opportunity. It's really lovely to have you here for so many reasons, not least the fact that it's in person. Isn't it exciting just to be together in a room? We've had a few things, a few lovely events and services, but this is our first proper interfaith gathering in person in this space, and I want to issue you a very warm welcome. You'll notice my accent is not a native one of here, so I'll wish you haere mai, and I won't go through the beautiful Pacifica greetings, but haere mai and kia ora from my native New Zealand. You are very welcome here. I arrived a couple of years ago nearly, right at the beginning of the pandemic and the lockdown. And coming to think about this is think about stories of hope. It does cause you to pause, doesn't it, when you think about the 2 years that we've all been through. And so many have suffered losses and change, and I think we're still on that journey of processing. So it's really lovely to gather together and reflect on that intentionally as people of faith, together with our difference and our shared values and vision for hope. And harmony, as we come into World Faith Harmony Week, is something that celebrates those differences. It's sometimes the unexpected elements that are brought together in music to create a whole. It doesn't mean they're all the same notes. So harmony is not just about pretending those differences exist, is it? It's about the beauty that comes when we bring our differences together. I'd like to share two reflections from two ancient texts, and bringing out a tension that we have both in the Jewish and the Christian traditions of hope versus circumstance. The Hebrew and Old Testament scholar Walter Brueggemann highlights this tension between hope, words of hope, belief about hope, and the reality of circumstance, or the realities that we face in our day-to-day. And last week, as you'll all be aware, was Holocaust Memorial Week. And I always find this such a challenging memorial. It's so important to mark these memories of the Holocaust. But I've studied and read about this over many years and watched many films and visited many museums in Europe and beyond. And the history of anti-Semitism is something I've really wrestled with as a Christian and Christian history. But as an outsider and joining in with Jewish memorials, they also, whilst honouring the dead and remembering that loss that I talked about before, and acknowledging horror, they also celebrate and focus on moments of resilience and of survival and of hope. I heard the university's annual Holocaust Memorial lecture last week given by Dame Stephanie Shirley, who was brought to the UK on the Kindertransport as one of 10,000 children who came here to live. And her story was so incredibly powerful and hopeful, wasn't it, for those of you who listened to it? And then with Jewish students last week, I watched a film called Son of Saul about the last 2 days of one man's life as a Sonderkommando in a Nazi camp. It was fittingly disturbing, but at the same time deeply personal and honouring of this man's dignity and his attempts to snatch sacred moments, a sacred ritual within that horror. Coincidentally that week, I found myself wrestling on Psalm 66, which we Christians celebrate and have included in our holy text. It's a reading from the Hebrew Psalter, and we honour it as one of the root readings from which our tradition emerged as Christians. But this psalm, I think, encapsulates that tension of hope versus circumstance. Let me read you some of the words. O bless our Elohim, you people, and make the voice of his praise to be heard, who holds our soul in life and suffers not our feet to be moved. For you, O Elohim, have proved us. You have tried us as silver is tried. You brought us into the net and laid affliction upon our loins. You have caused men to ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water, but you brought us out into a spacious place. I will go into your house and with burnt offerings and offer you burnt sacrifices. Come and hear, all ye that fear Elohim, and I will declare what he has done for my soul. I cried unto him with my mouth. Truly, Elohim has heard me. He has attended to the voice of my prayer. On a superficial reading, elements of this wonderful text would seem to be in contradiction. How does God hold our soul in life, even as we face death? How is it that God promises mercy and to hear prayer, yet sometimes our prayers are not answered? And how can this text still be read by those who have suffered so much? That answer is not my story to tell, but the questions can still be mine, and they may still be yours. What might this ancient text say of hope, of gritty, realistic hope that still opens to unimaginable goodness and futures? For the truth is that sometimes circumstances do overwhelm us. Sometimes life is dark and loss seems unremitting. Does God hear the cry of the innocent, of those who are overwhelmed, as in this text, by fire or by water? The pandemic and the challenges of global climate change and conflict we face at the present time should make us cautious about providing easy answers and easy definitions of hope. And in my work here in the university, those answers don't gain much respect. And they can be seen as trite, as passing things off, as not really ready to answer to wrestle with the deep questions and the difficult dilemmas. And they can be superficial attempts to harmonise that discord I talked about. But this tension, hope versus circumstance, is not an easy reconciliation in my pastoral work as a chaplain here. So many people of faith, and I'm sure many of those gathered here, have found ourselves needing to reappraise during the pandemic, haven't we? We're wanting to find new language and stretch and press this idea of hope and the idea of how do circumstances not utterly undermine the hopes that we share and that we hold distinctively in our traditions. We're seeking reasons for that hope, so it is robust and so we can explain and explore one another and with our young people. The same week I was wrestling with the sun, another event happened run by Jewish students. It was to honour and celebrate the memory of the Holocaust, and I was moved to see the students themselves and other student leaders we invited from the university come into that moment and share the reflection together. As one Jewish student told his family story in Hungary, you could have heard a pin drop. Gathered with student and university leaders from the very highest levels, alongside those whose families had been lost. And it reminded me, as I was thinking about this talk, there is hope in this human family, is there not? It made my heart swell. It opened my eyes to see a little more of the possibilities, not only of human solidarity, of possibilities for change and reconciliation at the deepest level, but also of God's presence with us and in our gatherings and with those who suffer and whose names may be lost and who we try to remember. God's presence, however we understand and worship God, is perhaps not something we can just contain or define or give easy answers and reasons for. But it reminds us, our texts and our ancient traditions and prayers, that evil does not have the final word. And that gathering last week gave me incredible cause for hope to see those young people together. So I want to light a candle to acknowledge that. And secondly and finally, as I finish, my second offering is from a Christian text about hope. And again, it's a celebration about candles. When Jesus was a baby, his parents took him to the temple for the Jewish ceremony of preparation. And it was an offering celebrated now in the church as Candlemas. Candlemas celebrates the reading from Luke's Gospel, the Song of Simeon, known as the Nunc Dimittis. And those of you in choirs or who have visited churches, you'll know there is so much beautiful music that's been inspired by the Nunc Dimittis. And its Latin is sort of translated, now let us depart. And I want to share this with you as the two characters in this story, in the Gospel, other than Jesus and his parents, are two older people. And I don't know about you, but some of you may be my age or older, and I'm about to turn 60 this year. So I'm looking for texts of hope about being an older person. Simeon and Anna are in this story, and we're told in the text that they are waiting for the redemption of Israel. They are both praying and looking and waiting in hope, despite the difficult circumstances they find themselves in. A Roman occupation. They are waiting and looking and hoping for God to renew and to save and to act in history. Let me just read a couple of words from that Nunc Dimittis text. Simeon, this is his song. Now, Lord, you are releasing your servant in peace. Or other translations say, let your servant now depart in peace, according to your promise. For I have seen with my own eyes the deliverance you have made, ready in full view of all nations, a light that will bring revelation to the Gentiles and glory to your people. There are a lot of people waiting in hope for renewal, for redemption, for their city, whether in Jerusalem or Kabul or Yemen or Kiev or Aleppo or Hong Kong, or even here in Glasgow or Edinburgh. Many are looking and hoping for God to act. And in this particular vignette, this story from my tradition, hope comes in an utterly unexpected form. A tiny child with poor, unknown parentage in a remote city in the midst of an occupied territory, in a distant time and place to us, but it reminds us down the years to look for it and wait for it and act for it and pray for it. And it might come and surprise us, so we'd be better careful not to miss it. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Kwe kwe, anahe, anahe, anahe. Kwe kwe, anahe, anahe. I'm glad to be with you all today. I am a pagan. Some of you ask what I am, who I am. I'm a pagan. I am also an honorary chaplain here, so that's my connection to this space. But I'm a pagan who is also a druid. I also honor and respect the Celtic spirituality paths, as well as animism. And I spend a good bit of time with my Quaker friends. So I'm truly an interfaith person, and I have been most of my life. So to keep things a bit short and quite personal today, what I'm going to do is share 3 little things with you. One, a couple of that I've written myself. But when we go through the park, I will also share a little prayer, a 3-line prayer. If you're with us, then you can join me. If it's raining, I'll just do it very quickly as we walk. So don't worry, I will share it here as well. Okay. So, first of all, I have a little excerpt from a wonderful little book that is published by Graphic, which is a Welsh publisher. And the book is called The Light Bringers, and it's by Karen Celestine. It's a picture book for children, but I love it. And I suggest everyone get a copy of it, no matter your faith or your age. So this is just an excerpt. All through the darkness, small beings gather up the tiny sparks of the sun, almost extinguished, but not quite. They take the embers and gently place them in their seed lanterns, and they start to walk. One by one, they come out and gather together. The light bringers, the bearers of spring. The little book is about the changing seasons, and this particular excerpt comes from the part on Imbolc, for those who follow the Celtic spirituality path. Oh, this is true in Christianity as well. Saint Bridget, Brigid. This is her time, the first stirrings of spring. And in the little book, this piece is written. I have a poem that I wrote, so bear with me. I like writing poetry, but it's a personal thing. So this is called Brigid's Fountain, and it was written at Imbolc in 2010. Weeping for the love of Brigid, my tears filled the fountain. The milky water rose, and from the center of the pool, the lady's blessings rippled outward. Anahita of the Celtic lands, Guan Yin of the Emerald Isles, she came to me, singing sweetly in the night, whispering my name. Bubbling up from the earth, her laughter filled me and lifted me. Dancing round the circle, her flames embraced me, held me. Singing sweetly in the night, whispering my name. Minerva of the Oaken Grove, white buffalo woman, is here. She stays with me. The milky waters rise, and from the center of the pool, the lady throws out her mantle net. Sleeping in the arms of Brigid, My dreams fill the fountain. And finally, there's a little song. Sorry, I got the wrong page. So there's a little song. I'm not the best of singers, but I'll share this with you. Excuse me, I've got the sniffles. Painted dancer, little oyster catcher, in muddy waters, seeking pearls of wisdom from Mama Ocean. Now I feel her cradling me. Painted dancer, little oyster catcher, in muddy waters, seeking pearls of wisdom from Mama Ocean. Now I feel her cradling me. Painted dancer, little oyster catcher, in muddy waters, seeking pearls of wisdom from Mama Ocean. Now I feel her cradling me. And I will tell you the prayer. If you wish to join me when we get to the park, it will simply be, deep within the still center of my being, may I find peace. Silently, within the quiet of the grove, may I share peace. Gently and powerfully, within the circle of humankind, may I radiate peace. Thank you.
Very kind and come to speak to you, and of course I'd love to welcome a charity bishop who is our principal priest and Abhishek from Rajasthan.
Namaskar, welcome to Hindu Mandir. Always keep clean mind, God is always with you, with us. And we pray first, Dev Shanti, Antariksha Go Shanti, Prathivi Shanti, there. Sky, earth, air, water and light. These are our preserver physically. If they are proper preserved, proper plug, just a plug-in system, charge from there, and inside will be complete.
Namaskar, Sasriyakal, Assalamu alaikum, and hello. I would like to welcome you all in this Hindu Mandir, Glasgow. I am Madhu Jain, as you all know, and probably know for a long time to all of you. See, I'm talking about say 50 years ago, when I came in this country, the culture, the Hindu religion, hardly anybody knew anything about it. And it was very sad for me that I'm here and I could not pray properly to go to the temple or meet with my culture. But slowly, the class regions were so helpful. They all welcomed me, and then we, all Indian families, start getting together. We start doing prayers, because prayer is one of the things, the main theme of our Hinduism. Of any religion, I think it is the main theme to pray with the God and ask Him for the healthy happiness and peace in the world. So when I came, we started praying in the houses and we started getting some funds together. Then eventually managed to get a small temple and we started praying in the temple. And there was always a big wish that we make a big temple. And eventually, after hard work, and all the support from all the community, we managed to get this temple and we reached here. We've been here in this temple for nearly over 30 years. But there first we came down the stairs and it was not like this, the way you are seeing it today. This situation has come after, as only about 15, 16 years ago, when we built this mandir here. When I came, there was no priest, but now we are lucky that we have got the priest, Acharya. He is always guiding us what is the right path and which way to go. And then the life keeps going. We all know last 2 years, the big pandemic came. And the whole world, if I say, came to a halt. Everybody was so much worried, so much upset, and there are so many people who lost their loved ones, who are feeling really bad. But there was one thing keep us all going, and that was our religion. I will tell you how my religion kept me going. See, every day in the morning I was praying. All I was praying is that God give everybody peace and health and give them peace so that they can all survive through this hard time. It was a hard time not for one person, not for one community, but it was a hard time for the whole world. And we were all sailing in the same boat. But I think the whole world came together. This is the beauty of this virus, that the whole world came together. And they all worked on this so hard that they managed to get out the vaccine. And everybody supported each other to get to that vaccine. So there has been a hope. I will say we should not be disappointed. Yes, there are times when you feel down and you get to that place where there is no life beyond this. But if you pray to God or pray to your religion, whoever you believe in, that always gives you strength. Feel you that you have got some hope for the future. And that is the main thing takes you out of these difficult times. And that is all I will say. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies, for coming to visit the Gurdwara Sahib, and I'd like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share how Sikhi has impacted on my life as both a woman and as an individual. So in my daily life, the way that I conduct myself, the principles that I have, more or less every action that I do, it comes from my faith and the teaching of our gurus. When Guru Nanak Dev Ji was born, they obliterated this caste system and they said everyone is equal, regardless of your social status, regardless of your caste, and this was a big, big thing at that time in India and in that side of the world. And then Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, they exalted the status of women. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj is born in 1469, so in the 1400s, now in this day and time, we've got feminists, we've got women that are constantly fighting for their rights. You know, we feel we must be equal, we should have the same status as males. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, in the 1400s, uttered this sermon.
Pandit
Ji in 1469 uttered this sermon: "From woman, man is born. Within woman, man is conceived. And to a woman, he is engaged and married. Woman becomes his friend, and through woman, the future generations come. When his woman dies, he seeks another woman. He is bound. So why call her bad when it's from a woman that kings are born? From women, woman is born. Without women, there'd be no one at all. O Nanak, only the true Lord is without a woman, and that mouth which continually praises the Lord's name is blessed and beautiful, and O Nanak is those faces that should be radiant in court." And for women, this is huge, because the form of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, for the sake of manifestation of God, is uttered from their own mouths themselves and exalted our status as women. So that was a big, big teaching, and that's had a massive impact in everything that I do. Now, when you go downstairs and partake in your Langar Seva, there's a lot of males that run the kitchen along with the women. You can have women priests. We've had women bodyguards. Our 10th Guru, Mai Pago, was a bodyguard of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. And time again in the Sikh faith, there's been such inspirational role models that were all women. And then you've got the concept of Langar, which we're going to go downstairs and partake, where Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, with 20 rupees that was gifted from their father, started the concept of Langar. And that concept still runs today. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, no one should go hungry in the world. Every Gurdwara's door is open, and there's free food for all to partake in. Now, Harmandir Sahib, which is a golden temple, one Gurdwara alone in India feeds over 100,000 people daily. So you can imagine the number of people that are being fed on a worldwide basis through the Gurdwaras themselves. So this aspect of seva, of selfless giving, this plays a massive impact in a Sikh's life. And then we have the concept, Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Sikhs believe that there's one God for all, regardless of your caste, your status, your gender, your religion, and all human beings can have direct access to God without the need for ritualism and without the need of a priest. I'm going to go on and just do a couple of lines, ladies, from another Shabad which was uttered by Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the 5th Guru of the Sikhs. Some call him Ram Ram, some call him Khuda, some serve him as Gosaiya, some serve him as Allah. But there's no differentiation, because to a Sikh, there's two forms of God. We have the form of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, who we regard as our King of Kings. To us, Guru Granth Sahib Ji is not only a holy book. We have the light that was within Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the jyot within Guru Nanak Dev Ji, was then passed on to Guru Angad Dev Ji, and so on. When this happened, it went this way for all 10 Gurus, and then Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, our 10th Guru, when they baptized the Sikhs, it's called an Amrit Sanchar, and initiated the Khalsa Panth, which are known as the pure ones. Guru Gobind Singh Ji gifted us the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and that light that was within each one of our Gurus is now within the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So we see our Guru Granth Sahib Ji as a living Guru. And the Gurus have preserved the original message, as Gurbani and scriptures are beyond time. Guru Granth Sahib Ji was written by our Gurus at that direct time, and the message that was prevalent hundreds and thousands of years ago still applies today. For example, the exalted status of women. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj has written the Guru Granth Sahib Ji that the world was round. Columbus founded this fact. Years and years later, Guru Nanak Dev Ji is written in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji that there's solar systems upon solar systems. Everything is put or listed or written in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So even today is very much prevalent and applies. And then we've got the form that exists within each and every single one of us. It's a formless form. So the formless form of God is within the 8.4 million life species. It's within every single person. We believe the light within God is within myself, as a Sikh, and is within every single one of you as non-Sikhs. There's no discrimination. We're all part of God. We're all one universal brotherhood. We all may practice in different ways, but in the end, we're there to try to reach the ultimate destination, which is the Supreme Lord and the Supreme Being. So Sikhs do not discriminate. When you see an individual, when someone acts badly upon you, you pray for them. We pray for them. May they be blessed with the intellect and how to conduct themselves, because God is within everything. And as a Sikh woman that applies Sikhi to my faith, I'm a vegetarian as well, because we see the life form, that light of the Jyot is also within each and every single animal. It's within every plant group. And we must respect Mother Earth, we must respect people, and we must respect animals. And our job to connect with God and discover God, the only way we can do this is through meditation. Meditation has had a massive impact in my life. I've been very blessed to have parents that have meditated from a young age. You know, we're seeing the impact of mental health. We're seeing the impact that COVID's had in the world. And it's through mantras, or Gurbani, or scriptures. Singing's a big part of my life. I've learned to sing, and I've been singing since I've been a young girl, and this is a good way for me to you know, if I'm upset or if I'm stressed. And as a Sikh, and you wanted to find out how Sikhi impacts my life, the King of Kings, the Guru, is my father. And if I've got a problem, the way that people take problems to their parents, or to a husband, or to siblings, I will come to my Guru, and I'll say, I am your daughter. This is my problem. I've left my problem with you. And if he's taken it off my hands, that's on him to stop. So our job is to connect with God, to discover God, and that is done through meditation. And the mantra that we use is Vaheguru. It's a very strong and powerful mantra, and it translates as wonderful God. So I know you've been walking a lot, I know you're probably tired, you're not used to sitting like this, but we're going to do just a little bit of meditation with the Vaheguru mantra. You can apply whatever word you wish, or you can simply just sit and relax and enjoy the music.
outlining some of the principles and traditions that have influenced Jewish communal responses whenever and wherever they have faced challenges through the centuries. And I'm going to start with talking a bit about Hillel, who was a Jewish religious leader. He was a sage, he was a scholar. He was born in Babylon in circa 110 BCE and died in 10 CE in Jerusalem. And he was associated with the development of the Mishnah and the Talmud. So, for those that don't know, the Mishnah was the first major written collection of the Jewish oral traditions, which we also call the oral Torah. And that was the first major work of rabbinic literature. And then the Talmud is the central text of rabbinic Judaism, which is what all Jews in the world who have faith, who are observant, that's where the religious law, the halakha, comes from. It's from the Talmud, and the Talmud itself includes the Mishnah, but also the Gemara, which is commentary on the Mishnah. So we like a lot of words in Judaism, a lot of discussion. Okay, so Hillel and the school of Hillel are much quoted in the Talmud, and the most famous quotation, I would say, is what we call the Golden Rule. And the story is that there was a prospective convert who asked that the entire complexity of the Torah and Judaism be explained to him using only the time that Hillel could stand on one leg. So what Hillel did was to quote from the book of Leviticus, saying, "Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbour as thyself." And Hillel concluded from that which is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbour. This is the whole of the Torah, the rest is commentary. And there's another volume, a very small, slim volume called Pirkei Avot, the Sayings of the Fathers, and Hillel is much quoted in that as well. And his sayings are essential to Jewish ethical thought. So again, the most famous from Pirkei Avot is probably, "Whoever destroys one soul, it is as though he had destroyed the entire world. And whosoever saves a life, it is as though he had saved the entire world." He also stated, "If I'm not for myself, who is for me? And being for my own self alone, what am I? And if not now, when?" In other words, I have to look after myself, but if I only look after myself, what kind of human am I? And the third part is the admonition to postpone no duty but to act. Another couple more sayings from Hillel. "Do not judge your fellow until you are in his place." And more crucially, man should always regard himself as a part of the whole. In other words, as part of a community, whether that's your local community or the community of humankind. So, having thrown all that at you, I'll move on to say, on this theme of community, it's no accident that the Jewish people call themselves Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, rather than Dat Yisrael, or the religion of Israel. A sense of peoplehood has long been the defining characteristic of the Jewish people. On the everyday level, this focus on peoplehood is translated into an emphasis on the community as the primary organising structure of Jewish life. Wherever Jews have lived, they have built synagogues, established communal organisations, and created systems of communal governance. And that's still the case nowadays. One Talmudic text, to go back to the Talmud, offers a working definition of the concept of community in Jewish life. A Torah scholar is not allowed to live in a city that does not have these 10 things. A Beit Din, that is a law court, that metes out punishments. A tzedakah fund, that is a charity fund, that is collected by 2 people and distributed by 3. A synagogue, a bathhouse, a bathroom, a doctor, a craftsperson, a bloodletter, some people add, some versions add a butcher, and a teacher of children. In other words, in order to be a suitable place to live, a community must provide for all of its members spiritual and physical needs. The presence of a baked in helps to protect residents from falling victim to crime, while a tzedakah, a charity fund, under appropriate supervision, aids community members who fall into poverty. A synagogue offers a place for prayer, but as well it offers a place for community gatherings. And the bathhouse and the bathroom and all the rest of it, well, I don't need to tell you what that signifies. And the teacher, though, importantly, and actually the word rabbi means teacher, the teacher ensures that the next generation is versed in Jewish tradition and prepared, eventually, to assume leadership of the community. And the emphasis on community is also reflected in the practice of requiring what we call a minyan for synagogue services. That is, there must be 10 Jewish men present at synagogue services and at burials for central prayers and Torah reading to go ahead. And that's the practice in Orthodox synagogues, so here. While in progressive synagogues, the minyan consists of 10 Jewish people, whether male or female. So this sense that the community is responsible for the physical and the spiritual needs of its members has manifested itself in a number of different ways. In late antiquity and in the medieval period, many Jewish communities were semi-autonomous. In other words, though they were ultimately subject to the laws of the place where they lived, and that's always stressed as being very important. We say a prayer every week for the government of the country and for the royal family. The two systems of law act together, but you should never transgress the law of the country where you're living, if at all possible. And even now, though these semi-autonomous local authorities have disappeared, many Jewish communities to this day do maintain these rules and regulations. Virtually every Jewish community in the world has established charitable organisations that help the poor in the community. First Jewish immigrants to the United States set up institutions such as the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society and the Hebrew Free Loan Society, aimed at assisting newer immigrants to gain a foothold in the new country. And these organisations continue to operate today. In Glasgow, the immigrant community formed similar organisations, such as the Glasgow Hebrew Philanthropic Society, which was founded in 1858, which then merged with the Glasgow Board of Guardians, which in turn was later renamed as the Glasgow Jewish Welfare Board. And then in 1996, there was another radical change in the organisation with more professionalisation and a change of name yet again to Jewish Care Scotland, and that's what we still call it. A chief executive was appointed together with professional social workers and staff, and East Renfrewshire Council entered into a partnership arrangement with Jewish Care Scotland, which led to the development of a seconded social work team and a daycare service. Partnership has given the community a unique one-door approach to statutory and voluntary services. But what about Jewish Care Scotland's response to the pandemic? Needless to say, in March 2020, their usual services were paused. And when it became clear that these temporary restrictions were going to be so temporary, they immediately adapted their service model to ensure that nobody suffered from being socially isolated or without enough support. There was a team who made time to speak with individuals and their families to identify what support and services they needed. And by April 2020, they had established welfare calls, doorstep visits, shopping deliveries, and helped people get to medical appointments. They also offered grants at Pesach, that is at Passover, for anyone struggling to meet additional costs associated with the festival. And usually those are considerable. By July 2020, they had adapted their services further to bring care, support and companionship actually into the homes of those who needed it most. And although the pandemic has meant a significant loss in their forecast income, the organisation has been supported by a very committed Jewish community who together have given both a huge amount of voluntary support but also donations, which have helped with the pandemic response. So that's one major care organisation and how they responded to the pandemic. Another care organisation was founded in Glasgow in 1960. That was the Jewish Association for the Mentally Handicapped, which we now call Cosgrove Care. It was founded by someone called Carrie Hill, who was a forward-thinking parent who recognised the lack of support of services for children with disabilities and their families in the Jewish community. So Carrie discussed her concerns with the Reverend Dr. Cosgrove, who was the minister of this synagogue, and she wrote a piece for the Jewish Echo. The Jewish Echo is Scotland's only Jewish newspaper, published in, well, it was Scotland's only Jewish newspaper. It was published in Glasgow from 1928 until 1993. It's a source of much fascinating information, and we've got all the copies here in this building. Her article asked for other parents who shared her concerns to come forward. She highlighted the inequalities that existed for children and young people with learning disabilities in the community, and she was looking for other people, like-minded people, to come together and do something about it. So she recognised that there was an additional problem, not just whatever their disability might be, but their Jewish identity could be problematic when services were being offered. At home, they could enjoy Shabbat and Jewish festivals, as well as being able to follow the kosher dietary laws. But parents were worried about what would happen once they were no longer around, to their Jewish identity as much as anything else. And she wanted children with disabilities to have high quality education and skills, and she wanted just to develop a new approach. Her article generated a big response from other parents, and a charitable trust was set up, and a residential home was established in Pollock Shields in Glasgow. Nowadays, this organisation, Cosgrove Care, is based in Giffnock. It works across the West Central Scotland with children, with adults and with older adults who have a range of additional needs, and they are helped to lead full lives within their communities. And support is provided in their local communities. And nowadays, Cosgrove Care isn't just working with the Jewish community. They offer their services to the wider community, Scottish community. It offers support now to the value of over £750,000 per year, which is a considerable amount of people. And many of the people who are supported have a lifelong relationship with the organisation. Their response to the pandemic was immediately to establish a volunteer recruitment drive across very many local communities. Over 4,000 people were leafleted across Giffnock, across Clarkston, Newtonburn, Thornleybank and beyond. And assistance came from volunteers across East Renfrewshire, Glasgow and Lanarkshire. Cosgrove Care established itself as a local distributor of food, hot meals, and care packages for those looking for assistance, and they could come in either via Cosgrove Care directly or from Voluntary Action in East Renfrewshire also fielded inquiries. And they developed a strong working relationship with Morrison's supermarket in Giffnock, ensuring that weekly food parcels were made available to those requiring them. For older people with disabilities, it was an especially difficult time, as many of their family members were self-isolating or unable to visit, meaning their essential needs for grocery shopping and medication were not being met. And in fact, Cosgrove Care received requests from family members from England, America and Canada, as well as locally, to help out shielding family members. There were eventually over 200 volunteers who delivered over 3,500 to date unique community support engagements. And then finally, just another care organisation or welfare organisation in the Jewish community in this area. This was an ad hoc organisation that responded to what was happening in March 2020, and they formed yet another volunteer group called Pulling Together, which assisted with support not available from other organisations, for instance, again, to deliver food, to collect and deliver medication, and they also provided packs of PPE and face masks to the elderly involved. So, as I said earlier though, also synagogues are community-based. So, in addition to being places of prayer and education, synagogues are the site of life cycle events, celebrating births, weddings, the B'nai Mitzvah, that's bar and bat mitzvahs, as well as dealing with end-of-life care and support. The communities that are part of a synagogue are offered a lot of communal support and welfare support as well. Community members, synagogue members might prepare meals for those who are in mourning. They will visit members who are ill, and they will join in each other's life cycle events generally. As for responses to the pandemic, my own synagogue, Reformed Synagogue, moved to delivering Shabbat and festival services online, on Zoom, by the end of March 2020. We also set up a weekly friendship group online, and we had a phone group where we contacted all our members to find out how they were, whether they needed any help, and if they would like to be contacted regularly by phone. Members could request meals and essential groceries and medication to be delivered to them by a nominated volunteer. And funding was allocated by our synagogue, so the synagogue would pay for everything supplied, unless our members told us otherwise. However, we are a progressive synagogue, not so traditional. And due to more traditional Shabbat observance rules, Orthodox synagogues couldn't offer online Shabbat and festival services because the use of technology required is against the rules of Shabbat. It's all to do with the understanding of what it means to rest from work, and using technology is one of the things that was not kosher, shall we say. But they did use the technology to have online gatherings, prayers just before Shabbat began on Friday evening, and just after Shabbat on a Saturday evening. And they also set up networks to keep in touch with their members and provide care and assistance if it was needed. So that's our sort of local response to the pandemic. You can see there was lots of help on offer. Nobody should have found themselves in a situation where they didn't have any support. But before I invite you to ask questions, I'd just like to tell you a little about a previous time of emergency for the Jewish people. That is the Nazi persecution and the ensuing genocide of the Holocaust. Downstairs we have the newly opened Holocaust Era Study Centre, which the Archive Centre was responsible for creating, and it's based on our enormous collections. And it details the response to the refugee and asylum seekers, the refugees and asylum seekers of the 1930s right through to post the Second World War. Thank you for listening, Becky.